He was bullied every day until he awakened his SS rank skill. The story begins with a merchant driving through a forest all by himself. Far away, some goblins spotted him and thought he'd be an easy target. They jumped at him, scaring the merchant a lot. He screamed for help, hoping someone would hear him. Luckily, some warriors were nearby, and they came to the rescue. They killed the first goblin that had jumped onto the merchant's wagon and told him to keep going while they took care of the other goblin. The team of warriors managed to defeat all the goblins in the forest that day, and then went back to the city. Then, we met our main character named Fate, who was feeling hungry because his stomach was growling. The group of warriors returned victoriously, and Fate overheard them talking about their success. Fate felt like he could never go goblin hunting like them because he believed he was completely useless. He blamed his misfortune on a skill he called Gluttony because his stomach never stopped growling. However, Fate reminded himself to be thankful because at least he had a job. Some time later, everyone in town was amazed as the Holy Knights came through. They were a trio of siblings known as the Valeric siblings. A man accidentally dropped some food that touched one of the knights, and this made him very scared. The knight named Hado questioned what the man was doing, and the man tried to explain but got furious because the knight was talking to him. The man started apologizing, but this only made the knights even angrier. They warned that anyone who disrespects them will have their heads cut off. Eventually, they left, and the man was lucky to still be alive. People were upset, but no one dared to do anything about it. In the castle, Fate was happy that the day was almost over, and he looked forward to going home. The knights arrived at the castle and asked Fate if he thought he did a good job while they were away. Fate believed he did well, but one of the knights, Raphael, tossed his pay on the ground. To make matters worse, he made Fate pick it up in front of them. Hado deliberately stepped on Fate's hand and mockingly apologized, saying Fate was so dirty that he didn't notice him. Fate's tummy starts making noise at a really bad time, and Raphael points out how gross Fate is. The knights get super angry because Fate's tummy sounds like he doesn't get paid enough, and they start beating him up really badly. Fate thinks about how in this world, there are people who have special powers given by gods, and then there are those who don't. The knights treat him like a punching bag and say he only has a job because of them. They tell him he should be thankful, and when he slacks off, it makes them look bad. They make him stand up just to knock him down again and say he needs to learn a lesson. They talk about disciplining defiant dogs. But then, someone named Roxy tells them to stop. She says it's not right for holy knights to hurt the people they're supposed to protect. Roxy takes over Fate's care and tells him that they are in the same boat when it comes to guarding the gate. She says that's how a real holy knight should act. She starts guarding the gate, and Fate, instead of thanking her like a normal person, says he's used to it and leaves. He's worried about what Raphael might do to him. Fate isn't a complete loser, he's just trying to protect Roxy and doesn't want her to get involved. The bartender warns Fate that if he lets the knights treat him like that, he'll end up like the last guy, and it won't be good. On his way home, Fate's mad because his stomach is still growling even though he just ate a big meal. He's upset about his gluttony skill, and wishes he had a better one. He'd be okay with being a warrior, merchant, or craftsman. Suddenly, Fate sees some thieves attacking someone, and his first thought is to get Roxy. He tells her about it, and she leaves him in charge of guarding the gate. Fate just stands there while he hears Roxy beating up the thieves. Then, one of the thieves comes running towards Fate, and he's scared at first. But he stops himself and decides to fight back. He manages to defeat the thief, and then something strange happens. His gluttony skill activates, and he gets new skills called Identify and Telepathy. Fate is really confused because he can hear Roxy's thoughts. But then, it stops, and he can't hear her anymore. He tells her he's okay, and she wants to give him credit for defeating the thief. But instead, she offers him a job with her family as a way of saying thanks. At first, Fate wants to say no, but she insists. She asks him if he wants to work for the Valeric family until it kills him. Fate thinks about it and realizes he has two choices, one where he keeps getting treated badly, and the other where he works for Roxy's family. He decides to go with the second option and agrees to work for her family. Fate is sitting in his bedroom when he suddenly realizes that all his ability, like his strength and skills, are now much stronger, way beyond what he's used to. He's also got some new ability, and he thinks one of them might be telepathy, which is the ability to read minds. He's not sure what's happening to his body, but he's feeling more confident because he might be able to fight monsters with these new powers. The next day, Fate goes looking for a sword, but the merchant tells him he's too poor to buy one. Fate's been in the royal capital for 5 years, and all he's saved up is 2 silver coins from working hard. But the merchant tells him he can still afford some really bad weapons that he keeps in a barrel. While checking the barrel, Fate uses his new skill, Identify, to see the stats of the weapons. They all have 0 for durability and strength, but there's one dirty, trashy-looking sword that catches his eye. It's as if the sword and he have something in common. Suddenly, Fate hears a voice coming from the sword. The sword's name is Greed, and it tells Fate to hurry up and buy it because it's worth it. Greed mentions that it knows about Fate's gluttony, and they have something in common. Fate leaves his 2 coins and happily takes his new talking sword with him. Meanwhile, the Valak family discusses how Roxy is trying to hire Fate for the Hart household without asking them. Memo suggests teaching Roxy a lesson, but Raphael thinks Fate can be easily replaced. He also points out that the Harts and the Valeric family are both part of the 5 great families that support the kingdom, so they shouldn't complicate things. Raphael goes to the military district, surprising Memo. She asks what he plans to study this time, and he shocks her by saying he wants to study how to become immortal. Sometime later, Fate is walking with his talking sword when it warns him that something is approaching. A goblin suddenly appears, but Fate can easily destroy it now. Each time he defeats a goblin, his gluttony skill activates, making him even stronger. Greed finds this amusing. However, Fate gets into big trouble when hundreds of goblins appear. Surprisingly, Fate becomes a completely different person as he slices through several of them. After each goblin is defeated, his gluttony skill activates repeatedly. Fate manages to defeat all the goblins and is shocked to see that his stats have increased to an incredible level. Greed suggests that Fate must be full now. Fate notices that his stomach hasn't growled at all that day, which is unusual for him. Fate is confused because he thought people were born with the skills they would always have. Greed explains that's true, but Fate's gluttony skill is different. Normally, stats increase with experience and battles, and your level goes up. But Fate's gluttony skill steals stats and other skills instead of benefiting from experience. This is why Fate is still at level 1 despite his incredible ability. Greed surprises Fate by revealing that they are similar. They share something in common. Just then, they notice a group of warriors approaching. Greed warns Fate that his gluttony skill is not something he should let others discover. It's a skill that goes against divine rules. Fate decides that he should handle the fighting alone. But Greed reminds him that he's not alone anymore. Fate is happy that Greed has accepted him as his master, but Greed tells him to calm down and stop talking about being a master. Before they leave, Greed reminds Fate to collect the goblin ears so he can get paid. Afterward, Fate gets his reward and starts thinking about all the food he wants to buy. But Greed reminds him that they need to take care of the sword's maintenance first. Greed wants to be treated with the respect he thinks he deserves, but Fate thinks Greed is being a bit too demanding. Greed explains that his name is Greed for a reason. As they continue on their way, they encounter a man with a little girl who asks for help. Fate uses his identify skill to check the man's threat level, but he discovers that the man has a skill that hides his stats from Fate's ability. This means they can't be sure what this guy is capable of. Greed wonders what Fate will do, and Fate shows that he's a completely different person now. He says they can't ignore the girl's cry for help. They decide to follow the man, who reveals his cruel plan to make the girl a slave to the Holy Knights. Greed points out that the man is quite tough, and he warns Fate that this is his last chance to turn back. This brings an end to our episode 1. If you want more episode, then don't forget to subscribe our channel, and also to check out other videos.